There's a specific kind of afternoon. The light is fine. Nothing bad happened. You ate, you answered your messages, maybe you even laughed at something. And then you sit down, and there it is. That hollow feeling in the middle of your chest. You try to locate it. You can't. You try to name what's wrong. Nothing comes. Not sadness, not anger, not fear. Just this strange absence. Like something left without telling you. And the worst part isn't the emptiness itself. The worst part is having no reason for it. Because without a reason, you start to wonder if the problem is you. I know that place. I've sat in it more times than I can count. This is what I want to talk about today. The first thing I noticed is that emptiness doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with drama. There's no event, no argument, no loss you can point to. It just shows up. Like background noise you suddenly become aware of. And once you're aware of it, it's hard to hear anything else. I used to spend hours trying to trace it back to something. Some conversation, some memory, some mistake. If I could find the origin, I thought I could fix it. But emptiness doesn't work like that. It isn't a problem waiting for a solution. It's more like weather. Something that moves through you. And the harder you try to explain it away, the more present it becomes. That was the first thing I had to learn. Stop demanding it makes sense. People around you don't always understand this. They see that you're functioning. You're showing up to your life. You're doing what needs to be done. So, from the outside, everything looks fine. And because everything looks fine, you start to question yourself. Maybe I'm being dramatic. Maybe I'm ungrateful. Maybe I should just push through it. I said those things to myself for a long time. What I didn't understand then is that emptiness is not ingratitude. It is not weakness. It is not a sign that something is fundamentally broken in you. It's one of the stranger, quieter ways the mind signals that something needs attention, not fixing. Attention. There's a difference. I didn't understand that difference for years. There's a version of this emptiness that comes from doing too much for too long. Not physical exhaustion. Something deeper. You've been present for everyone. You've been responsible, available, reliable. You said yes when you meant maybe. You kept going when part of you wanted to stop. And at some point, the internal reserves run low. Not empty in a dramatic way. Just quietly depleted. Like a phone that's been running too many apps in the background. You didn't notice it happening. That's the thing about this kind. It builds slowly. And when it arrives, it doesn't come with a clear label. It comes as that nameless, hollow feeling on a perfectly ordinary afternoon. I lived inside that version for about 2 years without understanding what it was. Then there's another version. The one that comes when you've reached something you wanted. A goal. A relationship. A moment you work toward. And you get there. And instead of feeling what you expected to feel, you feel nothing. Or worse, you feel that hollow thing again. This one is particularly disorienting because it carries a specific kind of shame. You're supposed to be happy. You got what you wanted. So what's wrong with you? I remember sitting in a moment that should have felt like a rival and feeling only flatness. I didn't tell anyone for a long time. Because how do you explain that? How do you say out loud that you got what you wanted and it left you empty? But that experience is more common than people admit. It has a name in psychology. But that's not what matters here. What matters is that nobody warned us that getting somewhere doesn't automatically fill anything. We were told that if we worked hard enough, wanted it badly enough, got there, we would feel whole. That's a story a lot of us were handed early, and we believed it completely. So when the emptiness showed up inside what should have been fullness, we had nowhere to put it. I think this is one of the deeper wounds of that particular kind of emptiness. It doesn't just feel hollow, it feels like a betrayal, like the map was wrong. And when the map is wrong, you don't just feel lost. You feel like you were foolish for trusting it. I needed a long time to separate those two things. The emptiness and the shame of feeling it. Something I noticed in myself, and in conversations with people who've read my books, emptiness often appears when we've lost contact with something we used to know about ourselves. Not a person, not a place, something interior, a way of being that got set aside somewhere along the way. Maybe it was creativity, maybe it was quiet, maybe it was the version of you that existed before you learned to perform for everyone around you. You don't lose these things dramatically. They just become less available. You get busy. You adapt. You become whoever the situation requires. And somewhere in the process, the original signal gets harder to hear. The emptiness sometimes is that signal trying to return. Trying to say, you've drifted. Not in a cruel way, just you've drifted. I want to be careful here. I'm not saying emptiness is always a message. I'm not saying you just need to reconnect with your true self, and everything resolves. That would be a cleaner story than the one I actually lived. Sometimes emptiness is neurological. Sometimes it's the particular texture of depression, which doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes it's something that needs professional attention, and I mean that without any hesitation. If you've been living inside this feeling for months, and it's affecting how you function, please don't navigate that alone. That's not weakness. That's just being honest about what you're carrying. I say this because I spent too long thinking I could think my way through something that needed more than thinking. That cost me time I didn't need to lose. 3 in the morning is its own territory. The emptiness that visits at 3 in the morning has a particular quality. Everything is quiet, so it gets louder. There's nothing to distract you. And in that silence, you find yourself asking questions that have no clean answers. What is this for? Where am I actually going? Is this what I thought it would be? I used to resist those questions. Try to go back to sleep. Reach for my phones. Anything to avoid sitting inside the uncertainty, but at some point I stopped resisting. Not because I had answers. I didn't. But because I realized the questions themselves were honest. Maybe that's what 3 in the morning is for. Not answers. Just the honesty of finally stopping long enough to hear what's actually there. One of the quieter realizations I've had is this. Emptiness is not the opposite of meaning. I used to think it was. I thought feeling empty meant I had lost access to something meaningful. But I've come to think emptiness is more like the space before something clarifies. Not always, not always. Always. Not automatically. But sometimes. There were periods in my life where the hollow feeling preceded a genuine shift. Not because the emptiness itself caused anything, but because it slowed me down enough to actually pay attention. You can't force that. You can't manufacture it. But looking back, some of my most honest turning points started with that exact sensation. That strange, uncomfortable absence. That sitting with not knowing. Something in me knew I had to stop moving long enough to find out what was underneath. I wrote When Your Mind Won't Let You Rest because I needed a place to put all of this. The nights that went nowhere. The mornings that started already depleted. The feeling of being present in my life, but not quite inside it.
I wasn't writing to explain anything. I was writing to witness it. There's something that happens when you write something down, honestly. It doesn't fix the feeling, but it changes your relationship to it. You're no longer just inside it. You're also beside it, looking at it, saying, yes, this is real, I see it. That act of witnessing, I think it's one of the most underrated things a person can do for themselves. Not journaling as a technique, just saying the true thing out loud, or on paper, or somewhere that can hold it. If you're sitting with this feeling today, I'm not going to tell you it will pass. I don't know your situation. I'm also not going to tell you if something is wrong with you, because I don't believe it does. What I can say is that you're not alone in this particular kind of quiet. A lot of people are walking around with that hollow feeling and no language for it, which is part of why it's so isolating. The isolation isn't just the emptiness.
I Isolation is the payment. Miss, I don't have a resolution to offer you here. This video doesn't end with the emptiness solved. It isn't that kind of video, and I'm not that kind of writer. What I hope is that something in these words felt like company. Like someone sat with you for a few minutes and didn't try to rush you out of where you are. That's what I was looking for during the years I spent inside this. Not answers, not a plan. Just the sense that someone else had been here and hadn't pretended it was simple. If you want to stay with these questions a little longer, my book, When Your Mind Won't Let You Rest, lives at valentinlopezauthor.com. Not as a solution, as a companion. Something to read slowly when the afternoon gets quiet and that hollow feeling comes back. You'll know when.